Must watch: Vice Ganda finally reacted on Terrence Romeo's engagement. Vice Ganda has just had her Valentine concert. During his concert, he had a segment where he did a spoken word poetry. He had this word poetry that broke everyone's hearts because of its content. After his concert, Terrence Romeo later on revealed his engagement. People speculated that his spoken word poetry was about Terrence Romeo. How did Vice reacted to this? In an interview with Vice, he talked about how happy he is with his boyfriend now. In line with this, he was asked about Terrence Romeo's engagement and he simply said that he doesn't want to talk about it. Asked if there was misinterpretation that he cried backstage, Ganda replied, "Invite you to watch the video. Actor Luis Alandi and non-showbiz fiancé tied the knot at Tagaytay." Luis Alandi, a 37-year-old actor who was last seen in the Kapamilya network as part of the afternoon drama The Greatest Love, had tied the knot with non-showbiz fiancée Joselle Fernandez, who works for San Miguel Corporation, on Friday, February 17, held at Two Gardens in Tagaytay City. Opting for an outdoor ceremony, Luis and Joselle exchanged wedding vows in front of a huge stone stairway covered with lush greens, as seen in the photos that made their way on Instagram. Luis was photographed wearing a moss-colored ensemble for his big day, and was spotted riding a vintage car to the undisclosed venue. The bride was clad in a white, sleeveless lace gown for the wedding. Luis's makeup was Chris Bansula while Joselle's makeup was by Albert Kerniawan. Among his celebrity guests were Precious Laura Quagaman, a former beauty queen, actor Aga Mulik and film producer Noel Ferrer. The couple were engaged last May during their U.S. trip. Luis had been single for 2 years before he met Joselle in an event organized by the gym they both frequent. Here are the details and moments about their wedding. Invite you to watch the video. Batch 67 Maestro Duterte moves higher up in PMA family. In his first Philippine Military Academy, PMA, homecoming as president, Rodrigo Duterte will be adopted into its Alumni Association, a privilege accorded only to select Mistas. His adoption will take place at the PMA homecoming on Saturday, February 18, in Baguio City. It's a step deeper into the fold of the prestigious PMA, the country's premier military school, whose students go on to become prominent members of either the 160,000-strong police force or 125,000-strong military. While Duterte is an adopted member of the PMA Dima Supo class of 1967, becoming an honorary member of the PMA Alumni Association Incorporated, PMAAI, comes with status and privilege not accorded to all Mistas. Mistas are prominent civilians who are adopted into PMA classes and thus are considered classmates of members of the class. Unique to the Philippines, it's a practice that best exemplifies how politics and the country's police and military forces mix. Politicians that become Mistas are usually expected to help out their PMA class and its members. PMA class members, in return, are expected to support the politician during elections. In the 2016 PMA homecoming, the last homecoming before the 2016 national elections, politicians who would run for office that year graced the event. Those spotted were former vice presidential candidates Alan Peter Cayetano and Antonio Trillions IV, and former presidential candidate Manuel Roxas II. Cayetano was adopted by PMA Class 1992. Roxas was adopted by PMA Class 1984, the same class that adopted President Duterte's daughter, Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio. PMA classes may choose to grant their Maestro an even greater honor by nominating them for membership into the PMAAI. Under PMAAI guidelines, 3 classes must nominate a Maestro, said PMAAI Chairman Anselmo A. Benito Jr. in an interview with reporters. A nomination will only be approved for Mistas, be it a Filipino or foreign national, with exemplary and distinguished professional standing, whose membership brings honor and prestige to the association, and who has contributed to the attainment of the association's objectives, according to a Newsbreak report. After a vetting by a committee and recommendation by the Executive Committee, there must be a unanimous vote by all PMAAI board members to adopt the individual. 3 presidents have already been adopted as PMAAI associate or honorary members: Fidel Ramos, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, and the late strongman Ferdinand Marcos. Once a milestone is adopted by the PMAAI, they are no longer part of the class that adopted them, although they can still join the class during the traditional PMA alumni parade. Support from PMA alumni. Duterte was adopted by Class 67 in 1994, when he was still mayor of Davao City, in recognition of his support for PMA graduates assigned to Davao City, said Avenito, who is part of the same class. His adoption into the PMAAI as a whole is a sign of their support for him. Aside from his adoption, Duterte will also be presented with a manifesto of support from the association. This is how we will show that we are fully behind him in his efforts to maintain peace and order in the country and his efforts towards the development of the country, Avenito said. From his mayorship to his presidency, Duterte has emphasized his support for the military and police. In his first months as chief executive, the country watched as he traveled from one military or police camp to another. He frequently goes out of his way to visit wounded soldiers in military hospitals or condole personally with the wives of policemen killed while enforcing his controversial drug war. He's had a soft spot for security personnel since his younger days, when he would spend a lot of time with the security detail of his father, then a governor of the undivided Davao. But recently, he's shown a less obliging side to police. After the murder of a South Korean inside police headquarters in Camp Crame, Duterte ordered an internal cleansing among the police force to weed out corrupt personnel. He personally berated some of them in Malacanang. Nevertheless, Duterte is well aware of how much he needs PMA graduates to win the many battles he faces: wars against drugs, police corruption, communists, and terrorism. PMA prepares for alumni homecoming this weekend. The current closure of the Philippine Military Academy, PMA, to the public is in preparation for the alumni homecoming on Saturday, February 18 and is not affecting the tourism business in the city. The gates of the PMA were closed to the public since February 15 until after the annual homecoming and is not at all due to the rumored red alert status. Last week, Baguio City Mayor Mauricio Damagan denied having announced the red alert status in the city and belied reports of any disturbance perpetrated by members of the New People's Army, NPA, or the ABSAF. Primary hotels in the city, the Baguio Country Club, BCC, Manor Hotel at Camp John Hay and Grand Sierra Pines Baguio, to name a few, are fully booked. Most of the hotels accommodated the alumni of the PMA and the others were booked on the weekend for some seminars. Tourists flocked to the city to escape the heat of the lowlands, which still range between 22°C and 28°C. Marianne Holmes, a tourist from Angeles City, Pampanga, said the temperatures recorded in Baguio City recently are similar to some Middle East and European countries during winter. Business is at its peak at this time due to the Baguio Flower Festival, BFF. PMA Alumni Homecoming, the PMA graduation in March, Strawberry Festival of La Trinidad in Benguet and summer season to include the Holy Week. Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte is expected to grace the PMA Alumni Homecoming and address the men and women graduates of the primary military school in Asia. Philippine Military Academy remains closed to tourists. HE country's premier military school remains closed to public. Security at the Philippine Military Academy, PMA, tightens as preparation for the upcoming alumni homecoming is now in full swing, with President Rodrigo Duterte serving as the guest of honor and speaker on February 18. The president is an adopted member of PMA Dima Supo class of 1967, which will celebrate its 50th year this 2017. PMA spokesperson, Lieutenant Colonel Reynaldo Balado, said the academy will be closed to tourists until the alumni homecoming, which is expecting close to 5,000 alumni and their families returning to the hallowed ground of the academy. If tourists would visit, they should expect inconveniences like traffic and limited parking space because PMA will prioritize the alumni, Balado said. PMA has been closed to tourists since February 8 as part of procedures of all military camps in the country following the termination of peace talks with the Communist Party of the Philippines' New People's Army National Democratic Front, CPP and PANDF. The closure has no connection to the February 9 torching of Philex Mining Corporation trucks. Balado said the closure of PMA is also part of the preparation for the upcoming week-long alumni homecoming highlighted by the parade of PMA classes. Aside from Duder, other VIPs expected to grace the homecoming are Senators Panfilo Lacson, Gregorio Honasan II, and Rodolfo Biazon. Police Regional Office Cordillera Director Francis Sarona said security measures are already in place for Duder's visit. Published in the Sunstar Baguio newspaper on February 17, 2017. Latest issues of Sunstar Baguio also available on your mobile phones, laptops, and tablets. Subscribe to our digital editions at apaper.sunstar.com.ph and get a free 7-day trial. Thank you for viewing videos. My channel regularly posts new videos. If you remember registered channels to receive the latest announcements, please. Thanks.